Hello, and thank you for joining me. I would like to share some thoughts and insights with you that I've had over the last couple of days. I wrote an article and I would like to read that out for you now. It's called The Next Step in Our Collective Evolution, Inviting the Divine Masculine. Just to be clear before I launch, when I talk about masculine and feminine, it actually isn't gender specific. All humans have both sides within them, and there are many men out there who embody the divine feminine beautifully, and women who live in the adolescent male consciousness. It also has nothing to do with age. I have met children and adolescents with mature consciousness and adults who live in the adolescent state. Why is this important? It is my observation that how we, as a human community, treat women is an exact reflection of how we treat our Earth. As you are no doubt aware, our Earth isn't doing so well on account of how we have treated her and all the life she nurtures in the years up until now. The world is crying out for a more balanced approach by humans, and for the Earth. The story till now. The world we live in is currently dominated by unrestrained adolescent male ego consciousness and has been for centuries, if not millennia. The hallmark of this type of consciousness is that everything revolves around me and my needs, my desires, my pleasures, my wants, and so on. This is the consciousness of getting what I want, regardless of the price my body or someone else or something else has to pay, of doing something because I can and I want to, regardless of consequences for the world, of exerting power for its own sake, of not being accountable because I have the upper hand. It gives a sense of power and entitlement and is a state very disconnected from nature and community. It is a state of dominance and of taking. It is a state of denying the unpleasant aspects of life, and will generally have a pill for every ill. It is a state of them and us, of separation, so I can feel better than and get that ego boost. Power is exerted externally and enforced. It is also ultimately very lonely and very hollow. It is the state of being in constant fear, of being superseded by somebody else, fear of being found wanting, fear of not being lovable, let alone loved. I am sure that you can identify many so-called leaders, both male and female, in politics and industry and media, who display these qualities openly. In this state, feminine qualities and women are disparaged and discounted, as is our home in the universe, Mother Earth. The first step for change happened a couple of generations ago, when women decided that they had had enough of being second-class citizens, of having their creativity and ideas discounted just because they came from a woman, and they started embodying masculine traits in order to carve out a piece for themselves in a man's world. Margaret Thatcher springs to mind. I doubt she would have made it to the top without being as tough as nails. Personally, I am deeply grateful to our mothers and grandmothers for walking this path because they paved the way for what is to come next. Thanks to these women in our Western society, it is now normal, although in some Western countries like Australia, it's still not overly common, to see women in positions of power and leadership. The following step was to start embodying the qualities of the divine feminine. Amongst these feminine qualities are deep connection to the heart, deep connection to the earth, vulnerability, inclusiveness, creativity, community, gratitude, wisdom, discernment, compassion, receptivity, intuition, generosity, and being of service to the greater all. The state of this consciousness is one of love and of inherent, as opposed to acquired, worth. As you can see, many men embody these qualities wonderfully. Women are now able to live in a feminine way, which is generally to raise everyone up so everyone can be at their best, a space of co-creating and everyone playing to their strengths, rather than imposing in an hierarchical, top-down way. Jacinda Ardern springs to mind as I write this. Embodying the Divine Feminine does require us to accept our darkness too, however. I used to feel somewhat offended that in the Chinese yin-yang sign, the feminine was symbolized by the color black. But think about the beauty of deep, rich, cool, fertile black loam and its potential for creating and growing and nurturing life. Think of going into a cool cave after having been out in the blinding sunlight. Think of how much more joy and gratitude you can embody after you've gone through the darkness of grief. Think about a beautiful night's sleep, or of a winter of deep rest and recuperation and creativity unfolding in the depths of our beingness that can then be brought forward into the light. Think of the nurturing darkness in the womb as a new human being is in the process of being created. It is a state of having a nurturing and reciprocal relationship with Mother Earth and also with our bodies. In this state, we respect our body's innate intelligence and understand that symptoms are our body's way of communicating a need to us. The more we can be comfortable with and or accept the darkness that we all have in our natures and the dark times that we all have to go through by virtue of having a human being experience on planet Earth, the less we resist it, the more whole and complete and compassionate we can be as human beings. It's a lot like breathing. It only works if you breathe in and out. In this state, power is internal and intrinsic and does not need enforcing, because the community is equitable and individuals valued for what unique gifts they each bring to the table, and everyone's needs are considered. To me, it is very much a space of beingness and of creativity. One notable difference for women in those two states is that in the adolescent male consciousness, we resist our own femininity by stopping or trying to control our menstrual cycles and make birth a technological event, whereas when embodying the Divine Feminine, we tend to celebrate our cycles and the different emotions and ways of being that they offer, and make birth a spiritual and empowering and transcendent event. Not all societies or humans are currently embodying this state. And yes, I have been known to formulate the odd understatement. And even so, it is time to take the next step. Inviting the Divine Masculine into our beings and into our world. And remember that both men and women have this aspect. Among these masculine qualities are deep connection to the earth and to the heart, vulnerability, inclusiveness, creativity, community, gratitude, wisdom, discernment, compassion, receptivity, intuition, generosity, and being of service to the greater all. It is a state of love and inherent worth. Yes, they are exactly the same qualities as those are listed under the feminine traits. And yet, if you feel into them, you can probably tell that they have a slightly different flavor. To me, the Divine Masculine springs from the beingness of the feminine. The masculine is a part that takes the creative ideas incubated in the darkness and brings them into the reality of the light. It is the doingness that flows from the beingness, as opposed to the doingness for its own sake, which is what we have been used to so far. The Divine Masculine protects the Divine Feminine, knowing that the two are dancing together in life, and that anything that destroys the feminine ultimately is going to destroy the masculine too. The doingness serves the greater purpose that the beingness feels drawn to. The Divine Feminine offers boundaries and direction, passion and purpose to the Divine Masculine. The Divine Masculine holds space for the Divine Feminine so that she can do her internal processing in safety and peace. The Divine Masculine knows about giving and receiving rather than taking. The Divine Masculine lives in reverence for life. Only when we embody both can the world be healed. How do we get there? By feeling our hearts is the short and complete answer. In one of his books, Neale Donald Walsch gives this guiding question we can ask our hearts before each decision, big or small, that we have to make. What would love do?